to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper and declare my interest as Deputy Colonel Commandant of the Brigade of Gurkhas.
Of Wimbledon.
My Lords, my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, has made it clear that equitable access is an integral part of the UK's approach to vaccine distribution. The United Kingdom has provided £548 million to COVAX, which has already delivered over 59 million doses across 3 continents. This includes 348,000 doses to Nepal. In total, COVAX has allocated almost 2 million doses to Nepal, which will be delivered free of charge. We will share the majority of any future domestic vaccine surplus with COVAX.
Lord Lancaster of Kimbolton.
My Lords, there can be no greater champion in government for Nepal than my noble friend, the Minister, in part because he understands, as your Lordship's House understands, the great bond that exists between our 2 countries. For over 200 years, through every conflict and crisis our nation has faced, the brave men of Nepal have fought and died for the Crown. Now as COVID spreads across the North Indian plain, Nepal faces a crisis of its own. So can I simply ask the reassurance from my noble friend as the air corridor opens this evening that enduring comradeship that has stretched across the centuries will result in us doing everything we possibly can to support our ally?
My Lords, may I return the compliment in paying tribute to my noble friend for his work and his advocacy for Nepal. But let me also further assure him, this morning I had a meeting with the Minister of Armed Forces. The MOD are standing up a military, medical and advisory team on the ground to assess. They will be leaving early next week to assess the requirements on the ground. I am directly engaging with the government of Nepal. Indeed, I had a very constructive meeting with the Foreign Minister yesterday, establishing exactly what the key requirements are, and later this afternoon I will be meeting the Nepalese ambassador to the Court of St James to further discuss issues of logistics. We have already extended support, including funding an oxygen generation plant at the Nepal Police Hospital, and we are working on the ground through our embassy and indeed officials within the FCDO and the MOD to see what further support can be extended at the earliest opportunity.
Lord Campbell-Savers.
My Lords, despite the work of COVAX, is not the absence of an effective international vaccine manufacturing and distribution system that meets world demand perfectly illustrated by Nepal's reported difficulties, particularly when the Serum Institute, the world's largest manufacturer, is situated in Pune, in Maharashtra state in India, next door to Nepal. And with an 8 billion world population at risk, with potentially only a 4 billion worldwide double dosage manufacturing capacity, as yet unrealized, how can world demand be met?
First of all, I think the challenges that have been evidenced, the Noble Lord mentions the Serum Institute in India, an institute I know well as the Minister for India, and of course the challenges in India in terms of the current wave sweeping across the country are well known. What we have seen is a stepping up in terms of manufacturing, a stepping up in terms of collaboration, and indeed the United Kingdom's structured approach to the COVAX facility demonstrates the importance, as the Noble Lord himself acknowledges, for a global supply chain which guarantees the distribution of vaccines across the world on COVID-19.
Northover.
India's disastrous surge in cases has now, not surprisingly, spread to Nepal. We're likely to see this pattern replicated worldwide. Yet it's reported that the UK has stopped adding to the global vaccination efforts when we cut aid. So how can we claim, as we have, that we'll be leading the world at the G7 in recovery from the pandemic if we can't even do that?
Hear, hear.
Lords, and that's just not the case. We are leading the efforts along with other key partners on vaccines. And again, as I said in my original answer, any surplus vaccines that we encounter here in the United Kingdom will be distributed through the COVAX scheme.
My Lords, Nepal and United Kingdom have one of the oldest diplomatic relations within South Asia. A friendship represented by generations of Gurkha soldiers and mountaineers. Can my noble friend, the Minister, please outline what other steps are being taken to engage with the Nepalese government, to better understand the needs and to ensure that humanitarian support is provided in the most effective way possible.
Lords, in response to my noble friend, I've already alluded to the cross-government approach as well as the structured approach. We're engaging with the Nepalese government directly, both in Kathmandu as well as here in the UK. We're sending experts in terms of technical support and also assisting their Ministry of Health in terms of their responses. And we will continue with a very active dialogue both in Kathmandu and in London.
The Earl of Sandwich.
My Lords, this is an emergency on the scale of Nepal's civil war or the 2015 earthquake. Is the UK responding adequately, especially to the local demand for vaccines and oxygen? The Minister will be well aware of the current fragility of government and of rural health services, but there are also many experienced NGOs supporting clinics there, both Nepalese and international, with safe supply lines. Are we making full use of those?
Lords, I can assure the Noble Earl we're looking at all key players to ensure that the response and the requirements of Nepal can be met in the best possible manner from the United Kingdom and indeed working with other international partners.
Collins of Highbury.
Yesterday in the Queen's Speech debate, I argued for the utilisation and expansion of local manufacturing capacity in low and middle income countries. And today, Labour have put forward a 10-point plan to transform the volume of vaccine production worldwide, including a global register of potential production facilities. Will the government support this vital initiative?
My Lords, I haven't yet seen the 10-point plan, but I look forward to... I haven't on this particular occasion. I'm afraid I disappoint the Noble Lord. I haven't seen his tweet, but I will certainly reflect on the important points. In all seriousness, what the important point is, we need to cooperate globally to ensure what the best and most effective response is, not just to meet the current challenges of the pandemic, but future pandemics as well.
Anna Stewart of Edgbaston.
My Lords, whilst we have to await the outcome of the current census, but the current estimation of the population in the United Kingdom with Nepalese roots is between 80 and 100,000. Could I therefore urge the Minister to treat this request for support, not just as a foreign policy issue, but also as a domestic issue, and ensure that we keep in close touch with the local communities to reassure them that we are supporting their families?
My Lords, I can give the Noble Lady that assurance. Our experience of the support we've extended to India lends to the strength of our diaspora communities, and I have asked my office to stand up a meeting with private sector representatives as well to see what we can do in strengthening the diaspora response to the needs of Nepal.
I'd like to declare that I am the founder and chairman of the UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum, and also vice chair of the APPG for Nepal. My Lord, the situation in Nepal is dire and they need our immediate help. I have received representations from the Nepalese diaspora and also had several discussions with His Excellency, the Ambassador for Nepal. My Lords, the country needs ICU ventilators, oxygen cylinders and concentrators, oxygen plants, ICU beds, test kits, and of course, vaccines. My Lords, I've written to my noble friend, the Minister, on the matter. I'm waiting for an answer. My Lords, I would also like to say that on my part, I'm galvanizing the Muslim charities to provide aid in Nepal immediately.
My Lords, I will be responding to my noble friend. I have received his letter. The list is well known to me, and I already talked about engaging with the diaspora, and I will be in touch with my noble friend in convening this meeting so we can address the direct needs.
My Lords, I fully support the UK government, indeed applaud the government for providing vaccines to Nepal and other developing countries. But can the Minister tell the House whether the government yet knows whether we will have a need for booster jabs for our UK frail and elderly in the autumn? And if so, whether jabs for or vaccines for developing countries will in fact take priority over booster jabs for the frail and elderly in this country?
On the noble lady's question, I defer to my excellent colleague, my noble friend, Lord Bethell, who could respond more effectively to her first, but we are working with the developing world to ensure we meet their requirements as well.
Lord Fowkes of Connaught.
Did the Minister note that the Prime Minister of Nepal, when he realised he'd made a mistake, resigned? Isn't it indicative that they have more honour than the Prime Minister here?
My Lords, I know our Prime Minister. I've worked with our Prime Minister when he was Foreign Secretary. I've seen a side to our Prime Minister that perhaps other noble lords have not seen. This was a Prime Minister who went through the challenge of COVID-19 himself. And when he returned to the office, the noble lord shakes his head. But it's important. We saw it, we heard it, and he delivered on it. The first priority, the first thing he spearheaded was the response to the COVID-19 challenge, not just to the challenge in the United Kingdom, but to the challenge across the world. And he was instrumental in setting up the COVAX facility, which is benefiting over 92 developing countries around the world. That is the fact. Our Prime Minister is someone I know personally, I know well, and he's led from the front on this agenda.